the Finance Minister explained the objective of this proposal, which is the GST rate structure rationalization accompanied with process reforms. So the first request I will have is to have the appreciation of the proposal in the manner in which it has been prepared, in order to not distract ourselves with issues which will be an outcome of this process, but the core principle of this exercise needs to be appreciated in totality. We have estimated a figure. We expect that the net fiscal implication, we would not call it as a revenue loss because that doesn't seem to be the correct terminology, but net revenue implication of this proposal is expected, we have estimated it to be around 48,000 crores. This is on the consumption base of 23-24 because that is where we had all the segregated data. What I would also request is to have to appreciate this exercise better. It's important to also understand why looking at a particular number of revenue implication and highlighting it in a manner which is not proper may not present the correct picture of this exercise. The reason being, one, typically the rate rationalization exercise would result in buoyancy effects. We do expect, as mathematically one may calculate based on consumption of 23-24, but economically that is not how outcomes will evolve. And we do expect buoyancy to play a major role because of this rate rationalization exercise in enhancing the revenue. In addition, there is also an effect on the consumer behavior. What he spends on and how much does get influenced by price, which is going to be expected to get positively influenced by this exercise. We also expect compliance to improve due to this exercise. Madam explained to you how rates which were at different levels where classification issues would be rampant, like sectors like food or transport, auto parts, etc. Once rationalized, it will improve and enhance compliance because many of these disputes would not necessarily result in revenues, but would linger on and would end up having a lot of resources, both of the business and the department, in struggling to settle those disputes. So compliance would also have a very positive effect on the revenue generation. Finally, there is a technicality that when the rates change, the rate of the value chain itself changes, and tax, you know, is paid through ITC and cash, and the actual implication of that will have to be worked out. I would just like to highlight a number from before just to explain how these changes do play out. For example, when earlier the average rates were around 15.5 in the earlier part of the GST, the compliance in the form of GST TB was around 85 to 90%. Now the compliance has improved to almost 97% as the rates have come down. We do expect these positive changes will have and we believe that in this entire exercise will be fiscally sustainable both for center as well as the states.
54.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Shishir from Hindu Business Line. My question is about the anti-profiteering because now so much rate reduction is there and we do not have the anti-profiteering mechanism. As of now, we understand that GST 80 can take only the pending cases and the cases directed by the courts. So what kind of mechanism we are going to have? And the second question is about the clarification on the revenue implication that 48,000 crore is on annualized basis or just for the FY26, ma'am?
On the first question of anti-profiteering, just to give you a couple of statistics, that since inception under the arrangement of anti-profiteering, which is no longer in place now, only around 704 cases were registered with the authority, and 60% of the cases were initiated within the first 3 to 4 years of implementation. And the total profiteering amount that was alleged was around 4,362 crores in these 704 cases. So we expect that last time too, these data shows that industry has largely passed on the benefits of rate cut. At that time too, the industry made public statements and committed. And you would have heard and you would have seen that a lot of industries have already come out and have committed that they will be transmitting this benefits too. Administratively, both at the state level as well as at the CBIC level, we will definitely be engaging with the industry and seeing to it that the benefits to the consumer as is planned as per the exercise is going to be transmitted to the consumers. And we do expect that since it is to the benefit of the businesses too, it is going to happen eventually. On the issue of the revenue loss, I think the question, probably you didn't appreciate the point I made the last time. It is difficult to look at these issues mathematically. So I would rather, we have done a data based on a historical number, that is 23-24 consumption. How will 26 happen will obviously depend on how consumption evolves. And we, as I said, are confident that this is going to be fiscally sustainable.
Follow up to the revenue question. What would be what is the revenue neutral rate after these reductions? And also on compensation cess, what happens after the loans are paid, especially on the tobacco products and high-end luxury products? Is there any decision on the future of the cess? Will there be something else coming in its place, or?
I'll have the Revenue Secretary tell you about the revenue neutral rates. But on the compensation cess, we've discussed it today very clearly. It will continue on those goods which I mentioned, the tobacco and tobacco-related products, over and above the 28%, which is the system which prevails now, till such a time that we repay the loan. And after that, there will not be a cess. And those items which were with compensation cess have already been proposed to be at 40% because they are sin goods rate. They are, as I said, 40% is not part of the scheme of things, it's at the extreme. No other good will go there except for these tobacco-related products. So they will be, the incidence will be on them at 40%. Revenue neutrality.
No, I didn't get the question. Revenue neutral would mean what? No, but what? Can you explain your question? What revenue neutral would mean?
Down from 15.5, the average rate, what would it be after these
It will
reductions?
obviously depend upon how the transactions happen. So consumption, I am assuming what you are saying is the total value of transaction total tax collected divided by total value of transaction. So that is something one can calculate historically. For the future, as I said, we expect a lot of effects of buoyancy, compliance, consumer behavior. So this number is going to be obviously something which we will get to as we reach there.
238.
Anshul Magazine from Indian Express. Just a clarification on the tobacco part, because I believe when GST was rolled out, Centre had the powers to levy NCCD on tobacco. So how will it get levied on, say, something like pan masala? If you could elaborate that. And secondly, was there any decision regarding electric vehicles? Because that was also one of the proposals submitted by the GOM.
See, on the pan masala, tobacco and everything else, under the GST, till such a time the loan is repaid, as I said, the 28% plus the compensation cess will run. Once I clear the loan, they all come to 40%. And that's what is the GST. Any?
EV remains at where it was. Yes, it remains at where it was, 5.
214.
मेरा सवाल, चूंकि अभी काफ़ी खबर चल रही थी कि जो 2500 जो अभी ब्रांडेड 1000 रुपये से ऊपर का जो शर्ट एंड फुटवेयर्स है, मैं राजीव हूँ सर, दैनिक जागरण से, तो उस पर उसको 2500 उसकी सीमा की जा रही थी। जो 2500 से ऊपर है उनको उन पे ज़्यादा टैक्स लगेगा, तो ऐसा कुछ हुआ या अब सब पे जो भी फुटवेयर और गारमेंट्स होंगे 1000 रुपये से ऊपर के भी, उन पे भी सिर्फ 5% ही लगेगा? इस पे कुछ फैसला हुआ? नंबर 1। नंबर 2 सर, कि स्मॉल कार, मिड साइज कार, तो क्या इसमें 1200 सीसी से ऊपर वाले सभी कार पे 40% लगेगा?
जहाँ तक फुटवेयर का सवाल है, आज के दिन 2 रेट्स थे। 1000 रुपये से कम वालों के ऊपर 12% और 1000 रुपये से ऊपर वाले के ऊपर 18% लगता था। सो जो चेंज किए गए हैं, जैसे आपको ज्ञात है कि मैडम ने पहले बताया कि 12% का रेट अभी नहीं है, तो दो रेट जो अभी हैं वो 5 और 18 के हैं। 5% पे जो 2500 से कम वाली वस्तुएं वाले फुटवेयर हैं और 18% पे जो 2500 से ऊपर वाली वस्तुएं हैं।